you ever felt completely paralyzed by the fear of failing, so much so that you didn't even try? For years, I let my fear of failure dictate my choices, but here is what I've learned. So, for some reason, I thought I wasn't capable. I'm not really quite sure why, but that was what stuck in my head. I didn't think I could survive alone and that I wasn't able to make any of my own decisions. Crazy, right? When you look at me now, but that's really the case. So, that belief led to a ton of controversy. My gut told me, right? My gut on the one side told me that I was a powerful woman with my own creative ideas and ambition. I was constantly pushing the rules and wanting to be my own leader. But on the other side, my fear told me that I couldn't do anything alone and that I needed to be with somebody that could be my wing person. Okay, so it was offset. So it started with my girlfriends, really. I was uncomfortable alone, even though I am an introvert. Introverts should want to be alone, but I was uncomfortable because I had fear. Then, in my boyfriends, I settled very fast because I was afraid of being alone. Here we go again, right? Then, my husbands, I made scared decisions instead of taking my time and really paying attention to the red flags and green flags. Here again, you see the pattern. All because I was scared to be alone, scared to be able to manage, and scared to never find anyone ever again. When my mother died, I had to be alone for a little bit. She was gone. There's nothing I could do. I was feeling so scared. I remember I had to start trusting myself. That was a pivotal point. My travels, for example, were slowly building that trust that I could create a home for myself and my kids literally everywhere, anywhere, because I was so I remember I had to do it because I was so scared to not be enough. I had to prove myself wrong, right? But I also knew that I didn't want to settle anywhere. So I really had to break free and make choices to grow my confidence, my free will, and get after it. So when I set out on that journey to walk it free, that was a pursuit of happiness and authenticity. Finding my roots and finding my strength, even finding my weaknesses, was so important so I could eliminate those and strengthen the strength, right? Okay, so today I am just taking as many women on my journey with me than I can because it is really important for you to also break free. So before I dive into this topic today, let me introduce myself. I am Stephanie Zima, and I help women just like you to break free from mindset obstacles and behavior patterns, just like I had to overcome, so that you don't get stuck. Because, it's really important. If this aligns with you, please do me a favor and subscribe. Hit the like button so you will be notified when there's new videos and new trainings coming out for me. And let's get on that journey. Let's go and dive in, shall we? Okay, so what is fear of failure? Let's get into this for a minute, okay? Fear of failure is not just about failing. It really is more of what failing means to us. So for me, failing meant I was going to be alone. And what happens when children are being alone? Alone means death. Okay. So I was afraid that I was going to die. That literally was in my subconscious that if I was alone, I was going to die. And it was ingrained in me. And over these patterns that I was talking about, my girlfriends and my boyfriends and then my husbands, it was always just this constant, almost obsessive need to be attached to something and someone so that I didn't have to be alone. Because in my brain, that fear of not being with somebody, that fear of failure, really, of not being good enough, that fear meant to me death. So you need to reflect a little bit. If you're dealing with the fear of failure, what failure really means to you. Okay, how does it show up in your life, the fear of failure? Is it perfectionism? Will you not even get into the middle of it because you're not perfect or you can't guarantee a perfect outcome? Is it maybe avoidance? Maybe it's not even taking the action, okay? Some of us are not taking the actions of reaching out to people, and maybe it's because of the fear of failure. Maybe it's like you think you can't do it. Maybe it's procrastination. Maybe it shows up as procrastination, delaying because of fear of imperfection, right? Which one is it for you? What is it for you? Think about the psychology behind it, really. It's always self-worth and identity. When you have a fear of failure, it's always self-worth and identity. For example, even when you don't reach out to clients because you're always busy, it's because you have an identity of, I am busy. I am the person that makes this and this and this happen. And this does not fall into that category, right? So if you want to shift something, you need to change the way how you think about yourself after you decide that you deserve it, okay? Once you deserve it, now you can actually make it happen. Okay, so where does it even come from? Okay, I mean, we all talk about it. We hear it everywhere. It's all over the internet. Fear of failure, la, 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 la. There's so many things talking about it, but where does that even come from? And I believe really understanding where something comes from helps to work with it. Okay, if you don't know what it is and where it comes from, you can't really work with it. So where does it come from? It's child conditioning. So for example, if you grew up always being punished or shamed for any of the mistakes that you've made, for example. And I want to stress here that this is not something that has to be because your parent was awful. Okay, this can be, for example, a very busy mom who just got frustrated when the kids didn't do it the right way and basically took the task away from the child. It could be your boss being a perfectionist that now is always taking things from you because you're not doing them fast enough. It can be a whole bunch of stuff from people that mean well in your environment, but because of their actions, it's triggering certain feelings in you that are not worked through. Okay, so that loop of trigger, feeling, thought, that is not completed. Like you're having a trigger, you're having a feeling, and then you get stuck here. Okay, you have to have a trigger, you have to have a feeling, then you have to have a thought about it, like an evaluating thought, and you come to a conclusion. That's how this has to go, right? If not, if you don't have that cycle closed, that loop closed, you can get stuck in that feeling part. For example, I am going to give you a practical example with my children. Because I'm that mom who gets frustrated if somebody doesn't do something fast enough, especially when I'm very, very busy and I need to get things done, okay? And I have multiple children and so on and so forth. It could be that sometimes I get a little bit short and I say, come on, let's go. Why are we not doing this? And I have caught my children, because I'm hyper in tune to this, I have caught my children tear up at times or, just feeling triggered of some sort. Now, if I would not be so in tune to it, I would not do anything about it. I would just go about my day and not pay attention to it. But because I know what it does and I see them being triggered, I'm also an empath, so I can feel that emotion and I see them being triggered. Now I can go back and I can close that loop, right? I can say, ooh, I see I triggered you. What are you thinking about this right now? And then I clarify with the action. I finish that thought and we come to a conclusion that they are okay, but their actions may not be. They are okay, but mommy is in a hurry. Like because I'm aware, I am finishing that loop for my children. Now, maybe you grew up with somebody doing the same thing to you, but that loop didn't get finished. So when that loop didn't get finished, that's where a childhood condition can come up with. Okay, so I hope this makes sense for you. Comment below if you guys have any questions on that. So maybe you felt some pressure to be perfect. Okay, maybe your parent wanted you to look nice, and maybe they didn't want to just be seen in a certain way or whatever. So that is something that could be the problem. Okay, societal pressures and comparisons, for example. Social media creates a false narrative for people, and everyone seems to be jumping on that bandwagon, right? You compare yourself with others, and it all seems so effortless when they're doing it, and everybody seems to be succeeding, and everybody seems to have all these followers, and this and that, and yada 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 and the other. But you're not really knowing all that circumstances behind it. So you have an emotion of maybe not being good enough, and then you have a feeling and you get stuck. Again, you're not following it through. You're not making the decisions of like, okay, you have a trigger and you have a feeling. Now, okay, what's the thought that we have behind it? They are so much better than we are. And then you need to have a conclusion where you are starting to take a look. How long have they been in business? You cannot compare yourself with somebody that has been in business for 20 years. Okay. Maybe you are just somebody who's just starting out. And even, when I look at my first videos to my videos now to probably the videos in the next year, like it's always evolving. See, and this is the thing. We are always learning and leveling up, and that is quite all right. Okay. All right. So where does it else come from? Maybe past failures, maybe past traumas. One big failure in the past may have literally shaped your fear. If you have completely messed up and you got fired from your job, you're probably going to be a little bit apprehensive, right? All right. Our brain protects us by trying to just avoid the pain. So if we have had pain, we are probably not going to want to go there again. And that's because our brain tries to protect us. So we are having procrastination or all the other things that we are starting because our brain is going to protect us from it. How we overcome it is by reframing it. Okay. We have to realize it, become aware, and then we'll have to start working with it. Okay. So how I overcame it, let's get back into some real talk here. Being alone is setting off for me a fear of failure. Okay. That's one of the things. When I'm alone, my hands are getting sweaty, my palms are getting sweaty. I start getting really nervous, and it's because I have abandonment trauma. Okay. I have abandonment trauma. I was never abandoned as a child, but it's also emotional abandonment. And that's what happened to me. When you grow up with narcissists or when people are just overly busy, these traumas can happen. They don't have to be that you are like left at the church steps or the firehouse or anything like that. It can literally just be an emotional abandonment because your parent has been detached. Right now, a lot of kids are going to deal with abandonment traumas because their parents are preoccupied with business. Their parents are preoccupied with their cell phones. And unless it's dealt with right away and points of connections are being made, it could very well be that your kids are ending up with an abandonment trauma too. Okay. So the fear of failure is kind of what's a little bit commingled to this, because in my brain, it was like when I fail, I'm not lovable. And when I'm not lovable, then I'm like, ugh, nobody wants to spend any time with me. Okay. So sometimes it's all a big mesh ball, so to speak. Okay. So what I did to overcome that is I kept putting myself into these positions where I was so scared, overcoming that fear over and over and over again. And back then it was, for example, I signed myself up for a 5K all by myself. And I was so scared. I about didn't make it. I mean, literally so scared. And I had to reframe my fear with fear feels like excitement. It's the same physical emotion, right? And think about it. When you're feeling scared, your heart is racing a little bit and your palms are getting sweaty. And when you get really super excited, it's the same kind of feeling inside. So reframe this a little bit. Some action steps that you can take is reframing failure as feedback, for example. So thinking that when you reframe or when you are failing, it's not failing and you are messing it up completely. You're just getting feedback. Okay. So feedback. So instead of I failed, you just say I learned. Take actions before you're ready. Doesn't matter. Just do it messy. Stop waiting for the perfection. Because, here's the thing with the perfection. What you think is perfect, I may not think is perfect. And this one over here is probably not going to think it's perfect. Or maybe this one is thinking this is super perfect and it's only your mediocre output. We all are different. We all have different lenses that we are looking through and saying things a different way. So don't get so hung up by what you think is perfect. Just be there. Show up. Use visualization and affirmation. So, for example, see yourself succeeding despite the fear. That's what I did with that 5K. I just showed up and then I saw myself through that finish line. Mentally, I was like, I'm just going to have to, one foot in front of the other. I'm going to have to get there. I'm going to have to get there. I'm just going to get there. I'm just going to get there. Okay. And how I got there, I didn't care. I just had to get there. So surround yourself then with growth-minded like people, because that way it's easier. If everyone is in that uncomfortable zone, if everyone is trying to make something out of themselves, it's much easier to continue to do the same thing for you. All right, you guys. So I hope this was helpful to you. I know that feeling stuck in fear is really hard. It's really hard. It's kind of like you're feeling trapped, and it's not a pleasant thing. So I really want you to come out of it. I want you to not be stuck in fear at all, because it's debilitating. Like, being stuck in fear is debilitating, and you deserve much better than that. Okay. So recognize when you are in a freeze or in a fawn mode. Okay. I think you have heard me saying that about the fight, flight, and freeze responses. The fight responses is not so apparent in the fear of failure, because fighters are usually showing up. Fighting gives you energy to take the actions. The people that are not showing up are often the ones that are in freeze mode or in fawn mode, hiding. So freeze signs would be procrastination, feeling numb, unable to make decisions, avoidance. Fawn signs would be to avoid disappointing others and over apologizing, prioritizing others' opinions over your desires. And, when you feel that, you need to understand that that is your fawn mode. Okay. Moving your body is something to get out of that fawn mode. When your nervous system locks up, okay, when they lock up, movement is really the key. So you have to start doing something. Shake it off, stand up, tap yourself, jump up and down for 30 seconds, shake out your hands and legs, take deep belly laughs if you can, or even like cold water in your face, or take a walk, right? You need to shift from what if I fail to what if I learn, all right? Your fear of failure is just a prediction. It's not even a fact. Like, it's really not even a fact. What if I fail? Ask yourself, what if I learn? Or what if I try? You see sometimes these things, what if I fall? Well, darling, what if you fly? Okay, that's the same kind of thing. Focus on your micro wins, small little steps. Take really bite-sized little steps that you can be proud of when you do that, and celebrate the progress and not the perfection. Focus on taking the action and not the outcome, and set really, really good boundaries, you guys. Really good boundaries. Break free from that fawn mode. It's really important. You can say mantras like, I prioritize my needs. I prioritize my needs. I'm going to say no. I am going to avoid rejection by taking action, okay, and doing it for me. And then just visualize, okay? So take small actions right now. Be fearless. You've got this. And if any of this resonated with you, please do me a favor, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment. Let me know what hit home with you. If you want to take the quiz to kind of see where you are, there's a quiz right here that you can take. It's a breakthrough blueprint, and I cannot wait to see you around and hear your breakthroughs and your questions and start engaging with me. Okay? Talk to you all later. Mwah!